You're about to hear 3 true horror stories. These aren't the kind of tales you find in old ghost books or movie scripts. These are stories that happen to real people. People who never thought they'd be telling them. Stories that start out ordinary, just another day, another night, until something happens that can't be explained. Or worse, can be explained, but is far more terrifying than anything supernatural. So turn off the lights, put your headphones on, and don't be surprised if, by the end, you find yourself looking over your shoulder. Story 1. The room at the end of the alley was 23 when it happened. At the time, I had just moved to a small town in northern Minnesota for a new job. The company that hired me set me up with a temporary apartment inside an old converted boarding house. From the outside, it looked almost charming, the kind of historic building you'd see on a postcard. Red brick, tall windows, ornate wood trim. Inside, though, the charm faded quickly. The hallways were narrow and dim, and the entire place smelled faintly of mildew and something older. I moved into Unit 4, on the second floor. The first few days were uneventful, just me unpacking boxes and getting used to my new surroundings. It wasn't until my third night that I noticed something strange. At the end of the second floor hallway, just past my unit, there was another door. It was painted an ugly shade of gray, and unlike the other apartment doors, it didn't have a number on it. At first I assumed it was a storage closet, but the odd thing was, the building manager never mentioned it. One evening I passed by and noticed the faintest light coming from under the door. A warm yellow glow, like a lamp, was on inside. I didn't think much of it until I heard whispering. Not just one voice, several. Low, hushed, and rapid, like a group of people having a secret conversation. I paused, leaning slightly closer, thinking maybe the manager was showing someone a unit. But the second my footstep creaked on the floorboard, the whispers stopped. Dead silence. I backed away and went to my apartment, feeling oddly watched. The days that followed were strange. Every time I passed that gray door, I had the same sensation, that someone was on the other side, standing perfectly still, listening to me. On my 6th night there, I was woken up at around 2:30 a.m. by a sound I can only describe as shuffling, like bare feet sliding across old wooden floors. It was coming from the hallway. I got up, still groggy, and opened my door a crack. The hallway was dark, except for that same thin line of yellow light under the gray door, and this time the whispering was louder. I stepped out, heart pounding, and moved toward it. I was maybe 6 feet away when click, the light went out. The whispers stopped. The hallway was now completely silent. I stood there, my hand shaking, before turning and hurrying back into my apartment. I told myself it was just other tenants. Maybe they were up late. Maybe they were drunk, but deep down, something about it felt wrong. 2 days later, I ran into Mrs. Alden, the building manager, in the lobby. She was in her 70s, with sharp eyes and the kind of smile that never fully reached them. Trying to sound casual, I asked, "Hey, what's at the end of the hall upstairs?" The door without the number. Her expression changed instantly. The warmth drained from her face, replaced by something guarded. "That's nothing you need to worry about," she said flatly. "It's locked, always has been. No one lives there." I wanted to press her, but her tone made it clear the subject was closed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the old building made my skin prickle. Around 3 a.m., I heard the shuffling again, followed by a slow, rhythmic knock. Not on my door, on the gray one. I opened my door a crack. The hallway was empty, but I swear I saw the doorknob on the gray door twitch, like someone was testing it. I closed my door and locked it, then sat in bed clutching my phone until the sun came up. A week later, I was leaving for work when I noticed something. The gray door was slightly ajar. My stomach tightened. I should have walked away. I should have just left it alone. But curiosity can be stronger than fear. I pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Damp, stale air, like a basement that had been sealed for decades. Inside was a long, narrow room with peeling wallpaper and dust thick enough to coat everything in gray. In the corner sat an old rocking chair, its cushion torn open, yellow stuffing spilling out. And then I saw it. On the far wall, written in what looked like faded black paint, or maybe something darker, were the words, "Don't let them in." As I read it, the floor beneath the rocking chair creaked. Even though no one was sitting there, I stumbled back into the hallway, slamming the door shut. When I turned, Mrs. Alden was standing at the other end, watching me. "You shouldn't go in there," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes weren't. That night, the whispering came again, louder, closer. This time, I couldn't tell if it was coming from behind the gray door, or right outside mine. I didn't sleep a single minute. The next morning, I went to the leasing office and told them I was moving out immediately. They didn't ask why. In fact, they didn't even look surprised. 2 weeks later, I drove past the building on my way out of town. The gray door on the second floor was open, and in the upstairs window above it, I could swear I saw someone watching me leave. End of story 1, asterisk story 2. The man in apartment 6, BWHENI, first moved into my new place. I thought I'd lucked out. It was a decent-sized apartment in a safe neighborhood, close to my work. The building itself was nothing fancy. Beige brick, 4 floors, a little worn down, but it had good locks, decent neighbors, and a rent I could afford. Or so I thought. I moved in during early spring, when the weather was still cold enough to keep people indoors. The hallway always smelled faintly of coffee in the mornings, and like someone's cooking pasta at night. The walls were thin enough that you could hear muffled voices if someone had their TV turned up too loud, but not so thin that it bothered me. It was a good fit. Until I met the man in apartment 6B. The first time I saw him, I was coming back from the grocery store. He was standing at the end of the hall, next to his door, wearing a wrinkled flannel shirt and faded jeans. He had thinning hair, dark circles under his eyes, and this fixed smile that didn't quite look right. As I walked past, he said, "You're new here." I nodded politely. "Yeah, just moved in last week." He didn't introduce himself, just stared at me for a moment too long before saying, "You should keep your curtains closed at night." I froze a little at that. Okay, thanks." I went inside my apartment and locked the door, trying to brush it off. Maybe he was just awkward. Maybe he was giving me friendly advice. But there was something in the way he said it, something that made my skin crawl. Over the next few days, I started noticing things. When I left for work in the morning, sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of him through the crack in his door, just standing there, watching me walk to the elevator. One night around midnight, I was in my living room scrolling through my phone when I felt watched. I turned my head toward the window, and my blood ran cold. Across the street, in the shadow of a tree, there was a figure, just standing there, looking up at my apartment. I couldn't make out the face in the dark, but I didn't need to. I knew it was him. The next morning, I left my apartment early, hoping to avoid him. But as soon as I stepped into the hall, his door opened. "You were up late last night," he said. His voice was calm, almost casual, but the statement made my stomach twist. "Yeah," I muttered, not slowing down. "Can't sleep when the moon's that bright," he added, almost to himself. Then, louder, "Curtains, remember." A week later, it escalated. I came home from work and found a small envelope taped to my door. Inside was a Polaroid photo. It was me, taken through my living room window. I stared at it, my hands shaking, my mind racing. Who even owns a Polaroid camera anymore? I went straight to the building manager, Mrs. Klein, and told her everything. She frowned, but didn't seem all that surprised. 6B has been here a long time, she said carefully. He keeps to himself. I'll have a word with him. I wanted to ask why she sounded so cautious, but she was already turning away. That night, I triple-checked every lock in my apartment. I closed my curtains so tightly that not a sliver of light could escape. I even pushed my couch in front of the front door before going to bed at 2:17 a.m. I woke to the sound of my doorknob rattling. I lay there, heart hammering, as the sound stopped, then started again. A slow, deliberate twist of metal, like someone was testing the lock. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at my bedroom door, praying it would hold. After what felt like hours, the sound stopped. I stayed awake until sunrise. The next morning, I decided I was done. I called a friend, explained the situation, and told her I'd be staying at her place for a while. When I came back to grab more clothes, a few days later, I found something under my welcome mat, a small key. It wasn't mine. It was old, heavy, the kind you'd see for a padlock or storage unit. Attached was a scrap of paper that read, "For when you're ready to let me in." I left that day and never went back. A month later, I heard from another tenant that apartment 6B had been emptied. No forwarding address, no explanation. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed, if I'd ever found out exactly what that key opened. But I'm glad I never did. End of story 2.